courage. I know that's a theme this year, and there's been a lot of things that have happened in my life, especially the past few years here. I believe personally that the number one terrorist in America is opioid addiction, especially with fentanyl. Because of the pleasure madness that is happening here, because the opioid addiction it affects the endorphins and the pleasure feelings, and I spent hours and hours while I'm going through this recovery thing, and I'm still recovering. This opioid addiction affects every part of your life, every aspect of your family. I personally understand detox. I personally understand withdrawal. There is still hope. There was hope for me. I should have died. I had bottles of pills, had a 9mm, and the thoughts were there. But God, I don't know if He gave me the courage or He gave the courage to other people. I believe with all my heart that the Morgandale Church and my wife saved my life with their prayers. Been in a lot of difficult situations, but back in 1999, my youngest daughter, Charity, was killed in a head-on tractor-trailer car collision, and she was killed instantly. And at that point in my life, I almost left the ministry, questioned God, questioned this whole thing about Christianity. And we eventually moved to Ohio, to Canton, Ohio. I was in the Christian Mission Alliance Church then. Difficult situation there. I was beginning to have back problems, and my doctor very easily put me on some Vicodin. And from Vicodin, it went to oxycodone, Dilaudid. I was on Dilaudid a long time. Ended up having back surgery and ended up in a hospital, and they put me on some fentanyl. And so for over 15 years, I had struggled with opioid prescriptive addiction. My wife didn't have a clue. She didn't even consider me as an addict. But even though during that period of time, God continued to use His word to preach, to meet people, and people were saved and things happened. And we moved up here, and even while I was here, still struggling with, I was taking 15 milligrams of morphine sulfate a day. And so I had ulterior motives to go back and help my sister who was having a lot of physical problems. And the church here, Morgandale Church, loved us. My wife never thought it was God's will for us to go. I had dollar signs in my eyes, and so we went back there. For the first 5 months we were there, I was in my man cave, struggling with my addiction, very high suicide throughout this whole period of using opioids, and depression. I've struggled with depression all my life. We went to a movie, my wife and I. It was in January of 2018, The Greatest Showman. And at the end of the movie, there was a song, and I have the lyrics here in front of me. I just sang this a couple weeks ago. The song is called From Now On. Let me just read you some words. I saw the sun begin to dim and felt the winter wind blow cold. A man learns who is there for him when the glitter fades and the walls won't hold. Because from all the rubble, what remains can only be what's true. If all was lost, there's more I gain, because it led me back to you. And the chorus says, from now on, these eyes won't be blinded by the lights. From now on, what's waited till tomorrow starts tonight. Let this promise in me start like an anthem of my heart from now on, from now on. And the chorus basically says, and we will come back home. My wife and I were just bawling at the end of this movie. We didn't have any idea why we were crying, what was going on. That was on a Friday night, and God was beginning to give me a courageous heart. And on Monday, the following Monday, I quit. I just cold turkey quit doing morphine. For 2 days, I didn't tell my wife anything. And finally, I was so afraid that I finally told her. But God was doing something inside of my heart through this process. And I fell in love with Jesus all over again. And I fell in love with her, my kids, with the book, with prayer. We laughed, we cried, we grew. I didn't know if I would ever pastor another church again. For about 5 days, I went through this horrible thing called withdrawal, and it actually lasted 3 weeks, but for the first 5 days, I thought I was going to die. And God gave me the courageous and the faith and His unbelievable grace to pull me through that. I called Rayetta Ray in September of 18 and said, do you think that the Morgandale Church would have me back? Because I know that they had been through 3 candidates and none of them accepted the call here. And so she was pretty excited. I was excited, and we came home. Ohio is my home. New Jersey, I was born there, but Ohio is my home. I have been amazed at what God has been doing here, not just in us, but in the church. And I have no idea how many we had on Easter Sunday, but we had a bunch of people here. And I'm not into statistic things. I just know that God has brought about a miracle through this courageous reunion of Morgandale Church and myself and my wife. But I'm sure glad, personally, that God is so patient with us. And He gives us the chance to energize our faith, to bring us to a point in our lives where courage takes place. And I salute you, Mr. District Superintendent. And I salute the Morgandale Church of the Nazarene as you went through that journey, and even the pain that I might have caused them. I now know that God had a purpose, and He still has a purpose when we're willing to say, okay, as I looked in the mirror and finally seen what was going on, and I said, help.